So I'll be showing how you can install the Prysm Validator client and the Beacon node on Linux. I'm running Ubuntu Mate. Before you start with this installation guide, it's good if you install MetaMask, a Web3 Ethereum wallet, and you get some girly ETH from Fosse. You can also get it from the Prylabs Discord. And as soon as you've got that, you can start with the installation. So I'll link all the resources that you need down below the MetaMask wallet website. Then what I'll also link below is the Eth2 Launchpad instruction document by Prylabs. And here it's got all the links and information necessary to complete this installation. It's pretty straightforward. The first step in this installation is to get Prysm. And before we start with that, I first want to talk about the minimum requirements for your server, for your machine that's running the validator clients. And these are an operating system, 64-bit Linux, macOS 10.114 or higher, or Windows 64-bit machine. Has to be Intel Core i5 760 or AMD FX 8100 or better. At least 4 GB of RAM, 20 GB of available space, SSD storage, it has to be fast, and of course a broadband internet connection. Anything higher than this is perfect. I wouldn't recommend having a machine that is lower than this. Let's go ahead and install the Prysm Validator client and the Beacon node. So here's an interesting visualization. That's where we're installing the Validator and the Beacon node. The Validator is going to help validate blocks, send attestations, and the Beacon node is going to sync with the Beacon chain. So there are different ways of installing the Prysm Validator client and Beacon node. You can use Bazel, Docker, or the installation script. We will be using the installation script as that's recommended by Prylabs. It's also the most easy way to install. Let's start by creating a working directory and entering it. So make dir Prysm, and we want to switch to that directory with cd Prysm. Now we're in the directory. What we're going to do is grab this prysm.sh script from GitLab. And we also want to make it executable. So here we can just click on copy to copy this piece of code, and we paste it into our terminal window and click on enter. So we received an error message, command curl not found, but can be installed with sudo apt install curl. So let's do that. Sudo apt install curl. You have to type in your admin password and it will install curl. So click on yes. This is most likely going to happen on a new Linux machine that you just installed. Now that we've installed curl, we can fetch the Prysm script again and download it. So paste the piece of code and click enter. Now this will download the Prysm script. So now what we're going to do is run the Beacon chain, and this can be done by running the following script: prysm.sh and beacon-chain, and this will sync the Beacon chain on your computer with the Beacon chain running on the Ethereum 2.0 blockchain. So this is probably going to take quite a while as the blocks are synced with the current block head. It might take a few hours, it can take 10 hours or 20 hours depending on how many blocks have been already created. So this aspect is very important, syncing the blockchain. The Beacon node you are using should be completely synced before submitting your deposit for the validator client. Otherwise, the validator will not be able to validate and will inflict minor inactivity balance penalties. No need to worry about this if the chain has not started yet. Now, since the Medalla testnet has already started, we will wait for the Beacon node to sync with the Beacon chain. So there's one thing that I'd like to mention when you're syncing, and if you're using a Mac, you have to make sure that you deactivate the SSD sleep option in the power saving. So you go into the system preferences, and what you want to do is you click on energy saver, and you can click first on battery and make sure that you uncheck put hard disks to sleep when possible, and you do the same one on power adapter. So you uncheck both of these. So when you're running Linux and a virtual machine on a Mac, you have to deactivate both of these options, because otherwise when you're Beacon node is syncing with the beacon chain, and you leave it on for a few hours, your Mac will just go into sleep mode and it will stop syncing. So this is a very good tip that I got from a subscriber. Thanks a lot. So now I'll come back to you when the beacon node has completely synced, and we can continue with the next steps. The beacon node is now completely synced. You can see it with this statement blockchain, synced new block, the block name epoch 260, finalized epoch 258, and slot 8332. And that would be to get some girly ETH. That is Testnet ETH. You can get some by going to the Discord server, and you can receive some girly ETH. There are also other faucets which you can use. However, I recommend just going to the Discord server. So I already did this. I've got some girly ETH in my MetaMask wallet. Make sure that you're on the girly test network. And here you can see I've got 100 girly ETH. So in the next step, I'll complete the onboarding process in the official Eth2 Launchpad. And here you've got the link. You can just open that up and go towards the Eth2 Launchpad. So they will have to generate some validator keys, and they will be saved in a folder called Eth 2.0 minus deposit minus CLI directory. So let's go over to the Eth2 Launchpad and follow along on the instructions. So we're on the Eth2 Launchpad for the Medalla testnet. The other steps that we have to do, we get a little bit of an overview, generate keys, upload Validator Connect wallet summary, and then the transactions. Introducing Eth 2.0. Ethereum 2.0 uses proof of stake to secure its network. So I won't go through the complete text. And here just says that you'll be using a girly ETH, GoETH, for the Medalla testnet. Let's go and continue. Signing up to become a validator on Eth2, you need to deposit 32 girly ETH per validator that you wish to run. This process cannot be reversed. So remember, when phase 0 starts, you will not be able to remove your Ethereum from the deposit contract. Here, I understand that I need to deposit 32 GETH to sign up as a validator, and that the transfer of GETH into Eth2 is one-way and non-reversible. And this is definitely very important with ETH, because 32 ETH is a lot of money, and that would be locked up for around 2 years. So I accept. So here are the responsibilities. Basically, you have to be online. If you're offline, you get penalized, and if you do some nefarious stuff, you get slashed. You can read more about the Eth2 economics with this Google Docs link. So I understand that it's important to keep my validators online and updated. I accept. Slashing risks, that's if you do something bad, you get slashed. I understand that if I act contrary to the specification, I'm liable to be slashed. I accept that. So validator keys are derived from a unique mnemonic or seed. Your seed is the only way to withdraw your funds. Above all, keep it safe. I understand that my mnemonic is the only way to withdraw my funds. If I lose that, I don't have any access to these funds. So very important, like with all other cryptocurrencies, the seed phrase is one of the most important things that you have to keep safe. I accept. Signing keys. This launchpad will help you create the keys for each of your validators. These keys will be saved in key stores, and you will need to give these to your validator software to begin validating. You will also receive a deposit file to upload to this website with the public keys for your validator. So you have to keep this safe. Make sure you make a backup of all these keys if you're saving them on the machine, because if maybe the hard disk breaks and you lose these keys, well, then you're out of luck. So I accept. I'll keep these keys safe. Transfer delay. Transfers between validators are disabled until at least phase 1. Validators will have to wait until phase 2, around 2 years, to be able to withdraw to a specific shard. I understand I cannot transfer my staked ETH until at least phase 1, and I cannot withdraw until phase 2. I accept that. So this is a long-term commitment, at least 2 years. So you have to be willing to have your validator running for 2 years. Your machine has to be running for 2 years. If it's offline, you get penalized. And it also carries early adopter risk. This is new technology, and you as a validator are an early adopter, a pioneer of this revolutionary technology. So I'm an early adopter, and I accept that software and design bugs may result in me being slashed. I accept. In order to become a validator, you will generate your new Eth2 key pairs. To do this and to install the validator software, you need to be technically capable of running commands in a terminal on a computer. So I accept that. I can do that. So here I can say, how many validators would you like to run? So I want to run 1 validator. So that would be 32 girly ETH. What is your current operating system? It is Linux. This is great because they will tailor the instructions for me. We will be using option 1, use binary executable file, and we will have to download the Eth 2.0 deposit CLI from the GitHub page. So open that up here. And then here I will have to load. I will download the Eth2 deposit CLI Linux version. And I will save this file to my computer. Go to the place where you downloaded the file, the Eth2 deposit CLI, and then extract it here. You need to rename the folder, make it easy, we'll just call it deposit. And we'll move it to the desktop. What we'll do is switch to the desktop. And here we've got the deposit, so we'll switch to deposit folder that we just created before. And then here we can run the deposit contract file that will help us generate the validator keys. And we want to run one validator, that's why here it's 1. Or possibly if you want to run more validators, you can have another number. Click on enter and run the file. I can choose my mnemonic language. I would choose English. I select the password that secures my validator. Repeat it for confirmation. And then here I get this mnemonic phrase that I'll have to save. So I've written it down, I saved it. Now I have to write it down again to confirm that I've saved it correctly. And now it's creating my keys and saving it to my key store. Great, so my validator keys have been created and that's where they are on my desktop in the deposit folder, the one that we just created before. So if I go to the desktop, this is only a folder on the desktop. My validator keys are in the validator keys folder. Great, so we can continue to the next step. So we've created the key files and we need to get the validator file ready, the JSON file. So this is the deposit data JSON file and this is the validator keys. These ones here have to be stored in a safe place, so don't just keep them on your virtual machine or on the device that's validating. Make sure that you put them somewhere else, somewhere safe. A USB stick, another device in case the hardware breaks on your machine. If your hard disk, your SSD storage device breaks, that you've got another pair of validator keys. So if you lose these validator keys, you will lose all of your ETH. You have to be aware of that. You will not be able to remove the ETH from the deposit contract in 2 years from now. Now, so this one we will have to upload in the next step. This is the public key. I have to confirm that I'm keeping my keys safe and have written down my mnemonic phrase. Continue. And here I can upload the deposit file with drag and drop. And then I can click on continue. Connect wallet. I'm using MetaMask. I get a notification here at the top right hand of my browser. Okay, so I get a notification in MetaMask that I have to connect with the Eth2 Launchpad, and I can just click on Next. And this will allow the Eth2 Launchpad to access my MetaMask wallet. And I have to give them authorization. They will be able to view the addresses of your permitted accounts. So I can click on connect. Now I'm connected with the Eth2 Launchpad. And this will allow me to deposit the 32 girly ETH necessary for my validator. So I've got 100.5 girly ETH available. And I can continue. The total amount that is required for this validator is 32 girly ETH. Here again, some warnings, because you have to understand that if you lose your mnemonic phrase, you'll not be able to withdraw your funds. You're also aware that the early adopters have a lot of risks due to penalties and slashing. That means that you can lose some of the ETH that you're depositing onto the deposit contract. You also have to be aware that this transaction is not reversible. You won't be able to withdraw your funds onto the phase 2. Now, of course, this is all from a testnet point of view. You're only using a fake ETH, but this is to put you in the real state of mind and experience when performing all of these steps as soon as the phase 0 launches. You have to be aware that when you're using real ETH, you won't be able to withdraw it for 2 years. So it's more or less replicating all the steps that you have to do as soon as phase 0 starts. And please make sure you aren't being phished. You're responsible for the transaction. Fraudulent websites might lure you into sending the 32 ETH to them instead of the official deposit contract. Please check that the address you're sending the transaction to is the correct address. So I know how to check that I'm sending my ETH into the correct deposit contract. If you're unsure, you can read more about how to do it safely here. So I click on that, I accept, and click on continue. So I must sign an individual transaction for each key you created. You can initiate these all at once or sign them individually from the key list below. So initiate the transaction. I get a message in MetaMask that I have to send 32 girly ETH. I'm on the girly test network. Please make sure that you're on the girly test network. This is the gas fee that I'll be paying, and this is the total amount that I'll be paying. So make sure that you've got more than 32 on your wallet. Confirm, and it will go through. Now you can see the status transaction has started, and then you can look at it on Alethio or Etherscan girly testnet scanner. So the transaction went through successfully. You can look at it on the beacon chain or on beacon scan. Let's open this in a new tab. And here the great thing, this is something that they recently added, is you can see what's happening with your deposit, and now it's pending. So as soon as it's active, you can start your validator client. As soon as the deposit from my validator is active, I'll come back and continue with the next steps on what we need to do in order to have our validator client up and running and be able to monitor what's happening. So I'll come back in a bit. As you can see on the Beacon Chain Explorer, my validator 25,642 is active. That means that the 32 girly ETH that's sent to the deposit contract have been accepted as a deposit, and my validator has been activated. That means we can continue with the next steps. So what we want to do now is import the validator accounts into Prysm. These are the documents that we created before, the validator public key and the private key. So the deposit folder, in my case, it's on my desktop. So I have to change the code to reflect that the folder is on my desktop. What I want to do is open a new terminal window, either as a tab or a new window. And we're going to use this script here to import the validator accounts. So what I'll do is I'll just copy it and paste it into the terminal window. Now here what I want to do is I want to make sure that I'm importing it from the correct directory. And here it says home, Eth 2.0 deposit, sleep validator keys. Or in my case, I've got the folder called, in my case, my folder is called deposit. So I'll change that to deposit. And it's also on the desktop. So I have to change that as well. And then I'll click on enter and this should work. It will import the validator keys. If you've got the deposit folder with the deposit file and the validator keys in another location, you just have to change the path so that the validator client can import the correct account. So here I have to enter a wallet directory. I'll just keep it in the same place as the default, which is Eth2 validator / Prysm -wallet -v2. So just keep that, add a new wallet password. The password must have more than 8 characters and at least one special character. So let's make it a little bit more complicated. So successfully created new wallet and wallet path. And here's the wallet path. Enter the password to your imported accounts. So here you have to put in the first password that you selected when you created these keys. Perfect. So we've imported the validator accounts for our validator client. Now what we want to do is run the validator client. So before you do that, make sure that your beacon node is completely synced. If you've got any trouble with the beacon node, what you can also do is you can run it again. You can stop the beacon node and then run it again by running the Prysm script. It's basically, it's this command here, /prysm.sh beacon -chain. And there are a few parameters that you can add. For example, you can clear the database if you've got some problems with the beacon chain, but I'm going to leave that there. Make sure that the beacon node is completely synced with the beacon chain. So I've got that running in my first window here, and it's syncing. You know it's synced when you can see the following statement blockchain. It synced the new block with the block identification, the epoch number, and finalized epoch. So you can see here everything is working as it should. I'll go back to my other tab. Now what I want to do is run the validator client. This is pretty simple. So now in order to run the validator client, you just type in ./prysm.sh validator. Then you're going to have to type in your password. This is the second password that you created. So this is the more complicated one. And if the password is correct, then it will continue. So everything is looking good. My validator is running, but it's now still waiting to be assigned activation epoch, and the status is pending. The status will change as soon as the validator client is running and sending attestation and proposing blocks. What's also great here is you can see your public key, and you can use this public key to get some information on your validator client. You can type in on the Beacon Chain website, and you can see the attestations that your validator client has done, also the proposed blocks. And if you go to the home tab, you can see some statistics, and here you'll be able to see how many funds are on your validator client. So for example, the effective balance for me at the moment is 32 ETH. You will see your income for the last day, last 7 days, and last 31 days. And the status is now still pending. And the estimated activation is in 5 days on epoch 1426. And now we're on epoch 406. That was the installation guide for the Prysm validator client, the beacon node, on an Ubuntu Linux machine. If you've got any questions, leave them down below. I gladly answer them. What I also want to recommend you to do is join the Discord channel of the Prylabs group. They're very helpful if you've got any issues with your validator client. You can post your issues there. You can also search. There are many issues that have already popped up in the past, and there are already solutions posted in the Discord server. So I'm sure you'll find that helpful. And also to maybe discuss other validator related things. With that said, I wish you a fantastic day. Hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll catch you in the next one. Have a good one. Bye-bye.